Yeah.
Yeah, Nancy and my daughter Connie were out there with two ladies that pretty much they needed to sit down. Which it was actually better. There was only not so many.
But it's, you can get too many people real quick.
Yep. Yep. Oh my gosh, that first day there was 20 women, give or take or more, I don't know. And I told y'all it was like herding chickens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun though. We had a good time. It was good.
Well, I guess you talk about herding chickens, I'd rather herd them than rope them, I know that.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
Yeah, I told them to get a hold of you because we have to make sure we get it wrapped up.
Trying to catch a chicken.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thanks for that.
My mother, she could walk by and grab one before you knew what was going on, you know?
Really? That'd be darn.
She was just, of course, if you were messing up, she'd have you about that quick too.
Mhm.
Counselor Montoya is in the city manager's office, so he'll be right here, he said.
Well,
Got the door done.
yeah, that looked nice.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard to steal something off of your plane though.
I
Like,
know,
get
man.
good.
You know, the oil's locked up now.
Just,
There was multiple times I'd go in there and there's an empty oil can with a $10 bill underneath it. Somebody needed some oil. Oh, that was kind of cool. Yeah, that's fine.
Good morning. Good morning.
Gentlemen, that's my wife, Sally.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Rod.
Bill.
Rod, Bill, Bob.
I'll call the meeting to order. It's 10:05 a.m.
Roll call,
Yeah, please, Dan.
Mr. Rod Billingsley,
Here,
Sean Sinclair, Bob Witters,
Present?
William Brainerd,
Present?
and Councilman Toya will be stepping in once he's that.
thank you. Gentlemen, you have the agenda in front of you. I request approval. Hello, Councilman, come in. Morning. Could the record reflect?
Okay. Councilman Toya step in.
Welcome, Councilman.
Thank you.
We've just on the third item of the agenda, just approval of the agenda, and I guess,
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as written.
second,
Second.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is public input. John, do you have any?
There was no public input submitted to me for this meeting.
So I guess we'll note that there was no public input. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. I think, gentlemen, you have minutes of the previous meeting. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections?
Mr. Chairman, I recommend we approve the minutes as written.
We've got a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show that the minutes are approved as presented. The next items is tour of the airport, under the business items. I guess, I don't know, that's going to take us a while. We could either, I guess we could either do that at the end of the meeting, or we can, just go right now. Well,
Mr. Chairperson, I do have a bus waiting for you guys to pick you up now.
well, that's just, if that's all right, we'll adjourn and go for our tour, gentlemen, and it's okay?
Sounds good?
Okay. Thank you. We're ready. Anyway, everybody back? I guess I'll call the meeting back to order. We're on item 6, business. Item 1 is completed. We've toured the airport. And I guess that brings us to item 2, self-supporting airport. I guess the reason I asked to put this on the agenda was, as you know, and as we discussed during the tour, this is a very expensive facility to maintain, and in order for the city to do what they need to do, I think we obviously need to do what we can, encourage to enhance the revenues. So you guys saw some of the considerations, and of course John spoke while we were there, saying that really all airports, kind of like the public transit and other things, generally have some funding from the city or the owner, whether it's city or the county. But I think to the extent we can, it's important to enhance the revenues so that those expenses the city does incur are minimized. So I guess that was the reason for that. And if there's any discussion, I guess one thing I would ask is, John, you spoke about the self-supporting aspects of it. What do you need? What things do you perceive that need to be done that would enhance the revenues that can be generated?
Well, there are certain basic things that the airport needs, and I think that just monies to maintain and upkeep certain things, as the hangars, being able to get hangar doors replaced, that's revenue. We talked slightly about Steve Elvis. I think that this is something that I have worked for 20 years, and I've had some progress, and then it just falls to the wayside, is land lease agreements to build big hangars like the one that you saw, new hangars, new infrastructure, getting people to come in, people that are renting here, buy fuel here. I think that just money to keep up the infrastructure is a great start. You know, fixing what we already have, whether it's our fuel trucks, whether it's our hangars, whether it's chains for tie downs, to charge for tie downs, stuff like that would be my starting point on that. Fuel cells it's always, you know, it's hit and miss, you know, with seasons, weather, and you know, like I mentioned up there, a majority of our fuel cells come from military. Rod's contribution to the courtesy car was huge, not just to generate revenues for the airport, but a little bit of lodger's tax here and there for the city, people to come in and see what we have, people that want to come back. I've seen reoccurring customers, which is huge. Getting another courtesy car wouldn't be a bad thing, or way to get transportation for more people into Las Vegas. Just to get those reoccurring customers, you know, that's my take on it, would be to start with rebuilding infrastructure and getting it to where we can really put it out there for people, to get it to where people want to come in. That's my thought.
Thank you, John. Danny, did you have anything you wanted to mention in that regard?
As far as
The revenues, or what you think?
everything John talked about is good to go. The only thing about the the vehicle to lend out. The city did try to do this at one point, and we're unable because of insurance on that part. You don't know if a pilot's gonna come in that drank too much or something. The liability on the city is a little bit too much on that one, so that might have to be a private or something on that part.
It's strange, some communities, as an example, Clayton, they have courtesy cars that are city cars. And I don't understand, Daniel, the insurance implications. I know that I pay insurance for that courtesy car. It really wasn't, at least the policy I bought wasn't a big deal, but I don't mind. I guess, but what John's concerned, and I understand, is if he's already loaned it out, and someone else comes, obviously that's an issue.
I think, Mr. Chair, I think, Daniel, I think meeting with the city manager on that issue, because I think there could be an MOU with anybody that wants to get a vehicle out there and get insurance for it. And then they get reimbursed by doing an MOU with the city.
What's an MOU?
You know, memo of understanding. It's like a contract that it could be dissolved by either party at any given time or specific time. But just so that we have something reliable and something that's
In writing.
you know, that has insurance, and it maybe even if it's not under the city's name, but as long as there's an insurance and it's being, that cost is being recovered by whomever's doing it. It's just like a taxi service,
Yeah.
you know.
The other thing that's an option is, we had Express Rent-A-Car up there for a while, and we were renting an office space to them, and we were getting a percentage, going back to self-generating revenue and getting revenue for the airport. Getting somebody like Enterprise or Hertz interested to come down and put a few cars up there for rental. Not only would it provide some transportation for the airport customers, but it would also increase revenues for the city or for the airport. It was pretty good.
Yeah, and a lot of times there's citizens that want to go to Santa Fe or Albuquerque and get the airport up there or whatever, and they need to get a rent-a-car, and you know, that would work out for the community as long as it's advertised that that's what's going on. Because I think I've always thought that it's important that travelers have a means of coming into town, spending the night and so forth. I don't know how many motels provide that service. If you call them, two of them?
Two of them, Days Inn and the Best Western.
And you have numbers for them there and?
Yes, I have flyers on the windows posted for people to get in.
And then I don't know how, if it's ever been discussed, the bus we went on today, I mean, that's a form of transportation. Is that something you've explored?
It has, and I've talked to the different transportation directors throughout the years, and it's always been a kind of an issue because they run on a schedule, and pilots come in at random. So it's really hard for them if they're waiting for a customer at a doctor's office or whatever to get away and go up there. If the pilot calls ahead of time and requests it, then it does work. But because transportation, like I said, they run on schedules, at least that's my understanding.
To gauge the demand, how often is the courtesy card used? Is it frequently, not frequently?
You know, again, those questions are relevant to time of year, weather. During storms, we can have 4 or 5 people sitting there wanting to use a courtesy card to come get something to eat or spend the night, but definitely several times a week.
Oh,
It's
really?
gone, yeah.
Okay.
You know.
Anybody else? Okay.
Mr. Chair, would it be possible to get maybe at the next meeting, some information on the, like for last year, last fiscal year, how much reimbursement the airport received, and a rough idea by what chunks. Was it from rentals of hangar space? Was it from fuel sales? That kind of stuff.
So you're requesting a revenue spreadsheet, basically?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, I don't know how to request that, but I will figure that out.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, because that's important, because, you know, if we're gonna ask, for instance, Logistech for some funding, that's kind of information that they're gonna require. If you ask Mayor and Council for any kind of funding, that's the kind of information Council and Mayor are gonna ask for.
Okay.
You know, what kind of revenues and where are they coming from, if any, or, you know, and what months.
You want that for a year? Is that
Well, it should be,
12 months?
it should be done quarterly, wouldn't you say? Or-
Yeah, but for a 12-month period.
You
of
want a
time.
12 month?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's start with that and see if that generates any further questions.
Okay.
But I, you know, Mr. Chair, I'd like to just mention that I was amazed, in all reality, is the condition of the airport and the runways, the office space and break rooms and so forth. I think a lot's been done in the last 20 years. I was expecting a lot more, you know, like neglect, because the other departments have been neglected. And I'm surprised that, that this has been kept up, as well as it has. Of course, those buildings, those hangars do need some work and stuff like that. They're old and stuff like that. But for the most part, the cleanliness and the whole area there, I think you guys are doing a good job out there, to tell the truth. But I still would like to solve this issue of the car rental, or bringing somebody in, or doing an MOU with somebody, or, I mean, advertise it, you know, maybe there's somebody out there that wants to put a taxi service, I don't know. You know, or that, what do you call that, Uber? Uber, yeah, or something like that. But,
Do we have Uber in Las Vegas?
No, we do
I
not.
don't think so.
I didn't think so.
No,
Okay.
I don't think so. But if not, I mean, figure out a way to offset the cost of having to put one there on your own, because I don't think that's, I mean, I don't think should be happening that way, and put it that way. But overall, I think that the equipment you have out there is fairly new, except for the fuel trucks. And I don't know, both of them aren't operating, or just one of them?
Just one, our avgas truck needs some upgrades that we're trying to get done with the CARES Act money. So once we get that completed, it should be operational. Again, going back to the statement Rod said about the feds not funding anything with potential to make revenue, unfortunately, the trucks fall under that.
Yeah.
So the city is kind of responsible for that part of it. And they are expensive. I mean, we have looked at upgrading to newer, but again, I don't.
Yeah, but this last year, we asked for a dump truck, we asked for a track hole, we asked for trash trucks, we got 2, we asked for a fire truck, 2 fire trucks, 2 pickups, police cars. So why can't we ask for a replacement of a fuel truck? I mean, that can be on your agenda there, Daniel, for next year's requests.
That's just the meter,
You know.
isn't it?
On that one, yeah.
Just an
Yeah.
up, you know,
The
an
jet truck
upgrade.
would be nice to just
Yeah.
upgrade that one. That one's a little more
Yeah.
iffy.
Yeah.
But it does, that's our bread maker, right?
What
That's our
year is
money
that?
maker. That one's actually an 80 something, mid-80s.
Well, you see, you know, that's already putting people probably in danger, for one.
80.
But either way, I think that those things need to be addressed, and they need to be added onto our legislative requests. I mean, we had 40 legislative requests this year, and, you know, we got maybe, what, a dozen at the most? But it don't hurt to put it on
Put 'em
there.
on.
And then also, put it on your 5-year plan, you know, this way it's on the plan itself, comprehensive plan. And that way we can, obtain those kind of things. Because they're needed. Even that car, you know, there might be a car somewhere in the city that's laying around, you know, that somebody else don't need. I think we haven't had a boss there sitting back here for a long time that I think Recreation finally got it, and I don't know what happened to that, if they're using it or not.
I think it's still there.
It's still there. But, you know, we have all police cars that we give to all the counties. We can work those things out. We just gotta move on it.
Thank you, Council. Appreciate it. I guess one thing that I would note, and at one time, Enterprise did have a rental facility here, and unfortunately, there were some, a local individual that was also renting cars and complained about the, I guess, the relationship, and so I do believe that rental car operation would be a good avenue for the city to pursue. It would just need to be clear that if there was an agreement, that it would be at least a 4 or 5 year commitment, at least so that I think if we ask for proposals or something like that, that would, so that they wouldn't feel like they could get pushed out after making significant investment, so. But maybe we can table that. Any other discussions on item 2? Item 3, bylaws. Gentlemen, you've been provided a copy of the bylaws. Is there any discussion or questions about the bylaws? I have a copy here if you didn't bring yours. Basically, I don't think there's nothing in those bylaws that seem to be a problem for me, but,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I pulled my own copy, and I'm not sure I have the right copy. Mine's a one-pager,
Yeah, that's the one.
and it's Article 6, Airport Board.
No, but, Doc, could I see that just a minute? This was what the city staff furnished to me.
Oh, okay. No, I need I would like to
It's
get a
6
copy.
pages.
Yes.
Yeah, I might have missed it. Was it sent in an email? I probably.
If, I honestly didn't get that email, Daniel. They said that they emailed it out. I didn't get it, I don't think.
I did not either.
And we did send it out twice to.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Whoops.
Because Mr. Billingsley said he hadn't received it the first time, so we did send it out again.
Oh, yeah, your second email.
Yeah.
Did you guys not get that?
I got nada.
Nada.
Oh, I probably did and I missed it.
Maybe next meeting, could you make copies for us, Daniel? And then that'll get rid of that
That problem,
Yeah.
yes.
that issue, and I'd like for y'all to be able to review those.
Yes.
Okay.
Councilman Toya, did you get a copy of this document?
I'm just reading them right now.
Oh, okay, you got it.
Well,
Okay.
you know, yeah, I probably could. When was it sent? Last week?
No, it's been about a month or better.
Yeah, it's buried.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So could we maybe table the discussion on the bylaws, would that be okay?
Yeah,
That's great, yeah.
that'd help me. And I'll pull it up and.
Okay, gentlemen. It brings us to item 4, land lease agreement for Steve Elvis. John has indicated to me that Steve would like to have have an agreement from the city to build a hangar similar to what the new hangar that you saw. And I guess my feeling is that should be a good thing. I think there were possibly some issues that were not addressed in the lease agreement with Paul Leakey, that I know John was concerned about. So, but we've got it'll be 3 months before we have a meeting. I guess what I would like to recommend is that Daniel, if you could obtain a copy of Paul Leakey's agreement, and you guys go over it with John, and then maybe we could get the city attorney to review that, make what changes. But I think at this point, if you guys are in agreement, we could ask them to proceed with preparing at least a draft agreement that we could get to Steve Elvis that would be in, an agreement that would be in the city's interest as well as would work for Steve. Unless we need to set on this and review the terms, I guess if you guys have any, I believe John knows, the real concern with Paul Leakey is he just keeps expanding his footprint.
Kind of without notice, I think, didn't he?
And so, and he doesn't maintain the exterior of his building, bless his heart. And I know he's handicapped and all that stuff, but nevertheless, if you can afford to spend that much for a hangar, you ought to be able to cut the weeds. And so I think those are the issues that John's spoken to me about. Is there anything else, John, that?
No, I think that's the biggest thing is if, city needs to have access for inspections. Buildings need to be built to standard, obviously to code, but if the city has any standards that they want, they don't want a pink hanger, or there needs to be some guidelines set by the city as to what they want to build, what they want to see built,
This is in regards to.
in regards to land lease agreements. Obviously, if it's a land lease agreements, the whole point of that is for the city to recoup the hangar in X number of years. Well, it's only beneficial to the city if the hangar's still worth something. If it looks like, if it's falling apart, then it's pointless and the city gets nothing in return. So, and then, a fair rate per square foot. And, I think that those are things, if you're gonna add on to your building, then you renegotiate your contract. I think that needs to be in there that, if you wanna add on or whatever, that's acceptable, but I think it's in the city's best interest that if they are putting more, then they pay more. I think that's fair. So those are kind of some of the concerns that I have, and I'm by no means attorney, so I don't know how to word that or to put that into a land lease agreement. But the goal here is to get Steve Elvis a land lease agreement, but long-term goal is to have the city have a land lease agreement, standardized land lease agreement, so that when I do get a pilot fly in that's interested, I can hand him that. And he has something that, to start with, so that we can start getting more people, again, with infrastructure and bringing more people into Las Vegas. And it just seems to me like that's a good thing.
John, actually, that's two issues, and I really think, at least for the purpose of this agenda item, it's strictly Steve Elvis lease. I do agree that we need to have a standard hangar lease for guys like him and other guys that we probably need to work on, that where you can say, okay, here, Doc, this is the lease agreement. But that's, right now, we're talking about construction of a new facility. Am I?
No, that's why I said that's primarily the Steve Elvis, but long-term, I'd like to
Right.
see it. That's exactly what I said, Rod.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Do we
I
need
think
a
that's
motion to proceed on with?
Well, yeah, I guess the point is, can we pursue this? I mean, our next meeting's not for 3 months, gentlemen.
How quick does Steve Alvis want to move?
John, would you?
You want the honest truth, it would be 20 years ago, he's been asking me to do this, so as soon as possible would be, if we can get the city attorney to essentially review the hangar that's already on file.
Mm-hmm.
I think that needs to be the start, and have him review it, or her, I don't know. So my apologies if it's a female. But the city attorney review it so that they can get an idea of what we need or how to move forward with it. And then I can sit down with them with some of the other concerns, if there is any concerns after they adjust it. And once we get that to them, we should be able to move forward. My understanding is that Steve's willing to move forward as soon as possible.
That hangar right now is not of any value or any use, or is it?
That little T hangar?
Yeah.
No, it's actually a liability with all the laton that's flying off of it.
So that's the number one issue.
Well, the conversation me and Rod had was in the proposal to let him build his new hangar would be to put it in that spot so that he can tear it down and that way there's no confusion about land, or it will automatically kind of revert back to the city if in fact he does own it. I don't know. But once he does a land lease agreement and puts a hangar on it, then there's no question as to whose land it is. And that way, that solves that problem. And I don't think he'll have a problem with that.
Well, you probably need to see the attorney, first of all, to find out what kind of an agreement there is in place, or if there's any.
I don't think there's agreement in place now with Steve Elvis. I think it's just a long-term, years ago, his predecessors at that ranch built a hangar. And they've asserted ownership of that structure, not the land, but of the structure. And I guess that's, but the other thing, and I think what John's talking about as far as the agreement, we do have an existing lease agreement with Paul Lewicki. And I think what John was saying was that maybe the city attorney could take that existing agreement with Paul Lewicki and modify it as discussed, and then if that was satisfactory with city staff, proceed, and rather than waiting another 2 or 3 months for us to look at it. And I mean, I don't know, I haven't heard anything from John that I'm concerned about, unless you guys have some concern.
No, I think we need to pursue it.
I would agree. I think that the city needs to pursue the Steve Alvis specific issue. I think that the attorney should be directed to look into history and make it consistent with that. I think that it's very wise to also direct the attorney to think in terms of this lease for Steve Alvis starting to evolve or even become a more standard lease, that we would say some future person, hey, here's what it's kind of going to look like. And that might even include a square footage number that's consistent across all land leases at the airport, so that we standardize things and we can show a future tenant, here's what it might look like if you're interested. So I think that would be what, and I also believe that I think the city staff is wise enough that if they can do that, and maybe with a small consultation with you, they could execute something with Steve specifically before our next meeting, which is
Yeah.
3 months out. I would be comfortable with that.
And I'm happy to help pitch in between now and then if need be.
Yeah.
You know, if I can do anything, but yeah, the attorneys are the ones that are gonna have to take a look at it.
Yeah, I would recommend, Daniel, that you and John meet with the city attorney and then see what he says. And if it has to go to mayor and council for any kind of approval, then you bring it before mayor and council. But I think with your plan in place, and I know what you're talking about now, building a pattern for everybody that fits everybody, and something that we generate revenue for long, 20, 30 years. That's less maintenance and stuff like that. I think that's the same thing he did, but of course he got direction from mayor and council on the scooters. When we were trying to get the scooters into Las Vegas, we didn't have an ordinance that was probably put in place, so we had to give direction to the city attorney. But I think you guys can work with the city attorney, and if he says he needs to get approval from mayor and council, then he comes see mayor and council. But it needs to be dealt with, and it's that, we're in that era. Yeah, we need to build stuff like that for generating funds. So, yeah.
So if I could have a motion basically to direct the city staff to proceed in consultation with the city attorney, and if necessary, if they deem advisable, they'll talk to me as chairman, but proceed with that. If I could have that kind of a motion, gentlemen?
So moved.
And I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Discussion items. Gentlemen, I know this meeting's going along. Fuel sales, we've discussed that. Lease agreements, we've discussed that. Phone line, I guess that's a continuing problem.
Excuse me, but what is the issue there, Mr. Chairman? What's the
I think
discussion?
the fuel sales, the fuel, the card reader for the self-service fuel, the phone line to that card reader is intermittent, at least during when it rains. Is that, is that?
The infrastructure that's between, we'll say, the railroad tracks to the airport feed, the airport lines and the FAA lines is one bundle, what they call a bundle, or set number of pairs in there, and they're running out of pairs that actually work just from old lines. The problem is that they're willing to put it in a phone line for X number of dollars. I do not know what that is. They talked to Kenny, and Kenny's not here. But they're not really willing to do it on their own behalf because there's not enough customer base up there for it. And so every time we get moisture, or it's just about anything, it's pretty iffy. We get no internet, no phone lines, and hence we got no way to run credit cards. When we're there, it's a doable process. We take pictures, and when we get phone lines, we run credit cards and we send receipts and so on and so forth. But when we're not there during the weekends and at night, if people need fuel and the credit card machine's not working, it poses a problem you know, so I don't know if that answers your question.
So it's not just the tanks, it's also in the office, it all goes down when it goes.
It all goes down. There, like I
So
said,
it
there's
is
al-
between the airport and in town.
Yeah, and the way they explain it to me, it has something to do with the lines crossing the tracks, and there's some huge process for them to get underneath the tracks or bore underneath the tracks, or I don't know. But that was the explanation I got. So,
Something to maybe explore, is there a way to go wireless?
we've looked at that too. Kenny spent countless hours up there, and it's just,
Not feasible at this point.
yeah.
Who was it that was also,
Our IT guy, Kenny,
yeah, who else was wanting a line up there?
the FAA uses a line up there. So their equipment runs off of phone lines too.
And they'll pick up part of the cost of putting a new line in?
Probably not. I don't know. They may. We haven't explored that.
And there's no way to get somebody like a Desert Gate Wireless and go with voice over IP situations for everybody?
You gotta have internet connection some way.
Yeah, and Desert Gate would provide that
Desert Gate would do that.
wirelessly.
That's what I was talking about, wireless
Yeah,
feed.
and they have a very high-speed internet that we could tap into possibly.
Now, those questions are probably better geared towards our
Let me
IT
call
guy,
you
because
back.
I don't know
Yeah, that's
anything about
probably
that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I
Let me
just,
call you back.
Yeah.
all I know is the
You
phone
know
lines
what?
don't work.
I'll talk to Ron Doss from Desert Gate. He's my daughter's soccer coach. And I'll ask him, just,
Yeah.
hey, is it worth exploring a Wi-Fi connection up there through Desert Gate Internet? And they can run credit cards, do that, and hook up, and, I mean, their system will go down somewhat too, but it isn't as often as when it rains. Which, yeah, I'll take that on. I'll talk to
Okay.
Ron about it.
And you just explained something to me that makes sense. Now I know why when I go on my National Weather Service, sometimes the weather report from the airport is not available.
Mhm.
It's a phone line issue, it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay.
Last night, on the weather, when they show current temperatures,
Yeah?
you notice that Las Vegas
It's
current
blank?
temperature is blank.
Yeah, that's it.
That's what's going on.
Yep, yep.
It's wet.
It's wet.
So, let's agree, Doc, you'll kind
I'll
of,
do that. I'll
Look
talk
that over
to
and
Ron
then-
and see if that's an option, and then we can explore it the next time. But I'm happy to do that. They're really good guys down, men and women down there. And that's where I get my service from, and it's really pretty reliable.
Yeah, so do we.
Out in the middle of nowhere.
Yes, so are we. We're out.
And I'll bet you they could do that.
okay. Any other discussion on item 3? Item 4, revenues, maintaining and generating revenues. We've kind of already discussed that.
Yeah.
Item 5, hangar maintenance. We have discussed that. Finally, the airport tour review. I guess I want to concur with what the councilman said. I know you guys do a good job, John. I know you work hard, and it's obvious from what we saw. And I appreciate your work, you and Bill.
Ditto.
Councilman?
I want to go back to maintenance of the hangars.
Oh, okay.
I think that, again, Daniel, I think that needs to be, I don't know if we can use state funds for that, or if it's got to be federal funds. But if we can ask for legislative request funding for that, that should be an item on there too.
And that would have to be state funding, the federal won't pay for that if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't know that the state will pay for it on the, not state aviation anyways.
Yeah,
I could look into it. and see.
check into it. If not, we need to apply for matching funds if we can, through the federal, then, the federal side. And, I don't know, I think you need to get some kind of an estimate done. Go through your city manager and see if he'll allow you to get an estimate of how much repairs would cost for the building as well as for fixing those doors.
For
Because-
the older historical building.
You know,
So
Yeah,
right
that'd be
now,
the one
we
to
are
start
doing the
with.
hangar door, it's
Yeah.
putting in the motors and stuff like that to be able to open it and stuff like that. But as far as a full repair, it's pretty costly to replace the whole hangar door.
you know, I'm
We
sure.
was up in the 100 and, what was it, 120?
120.
To replace it.
You know, but we have some monies. We have some COVID monies coming in that we can, if mayor and council again decides, they're the ones that set those priorities. And there's probably like 9,999 of them. So.
Yes, sir.
But if they want to make this a priority, they can, because that building is worth saving at this
Mhm.
point.
I think so.
You let it
Yeah.
go another 10 years, I don't know what it's going to look like. Yeah, I think that you got to go through those avenues and find out, get some answers and go from there. Because I have no idea how much it would cost to repair something like that. So if we want to include it on that listing of priorities, we got to have some kind of a figure. So,
Councilman, one of the things, and we didn't go back there, that part that was hazardous, it is possible that if that facility were renovated completely, that it could work for maybe the fire academy that you're talking about. There's restrooms and cap classrooms, and there's a fairly good size facility that's that we didn't see. And I mean, if there's some desire to look for a facility out there, that might be something worth at least discussion. If you're going to renovate that structure, you need to have a use purpose for it, that it seemed to me. So that's,
So is that back part attached to that building?
it's part of the building, yes, sir.
And it's half the size of this building, or no? Or less?
A third?
No, it's,
Quarter?
it's 60 or 70% the size of this building, because it's 2 floors.
Okay.
And it's,
Oh, that's right.
it's, I would
Well,
encourage you to,
what I can do is this, I can meet with John and our fire chief, and we'll make a trip out there, and let's see what he thinks about it, and we'll go from there.
and there's access, you could do access off the highway,
Yes.
kind of where the towers are now, John, you could work.
Yeah.
And then the area back to the north of the building, to the extent the fire department needed some space,
Yeah.
I think that could work without impacting the
Yeah.
airfield, airport operation.
Not to mention, it might address their need for a substation.
Yeah. We'll meet with the chief and see what he says. I don't know if aviation and fire mix or not.
I don't know why not.
Well, if they have trainings, they have smoke, they have fires or anything like that, I don't know.
I can show you places on Albuquerque International where they
Oh, yeah.
train
Oh, okay.
aircraft fires.
Yeah.
You know, we taxi by it.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll do that. I'll meet with them and we'll go out there and check it out, and then we'll see what he says and what kind of funding he has available or that we can apply for and so forth. Because we need to determine what's gonna happen with this other building here. And if that's being renovated or if it's been sold, we have a buyer and stuff like that, they're gonna have to be leaving anyway, either way, I guess. So they gotta find somewhere else. So I told them solid waste, Mills Avenue is another one we're looking at for but they really don't want it in the middle of town and stuff like that. But there is funding available for it, sure. Okay, we'll get that.
Okay. Any other discussion items, gentlemen?
No, sir.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah. My phone's been
Come on, yes,
going
please.
ballistic, so I better get. Yeah. Well, it was a good meeting. Thank you all for inviting me.
Thank you for coming.
All right.
So this is a guy who landed